Welcome to the Power in Motion podcast, the show for women who want to develop a kinder relationship with their body so you can feel healthy, happy, and confident without restricting food, doing torturous exercise, or constantly worrying about the number on the scale. I'm your host, Kim Hagel, size-inclusive fitness specialist and certified non-diet health and life coach specializing in body image. This podcast is here to provide weight-neutral, health at every size aligned information and coaching on sustainable habits and mindset shifts so you can feel your very best in the body you have right now. Let's lace up our runners and go for a walk while we chat. Hey there, folks. Welcome back to the Power in Motion podcast. We have got a really great interview for you today. If you have ever felt frustrated about dressing your body or like you have a closet full of clothes but nothing to wear, this is the episode for you. I'm joined today by Liz Thogerson, who's an image consultant and creator of the My Style Biology method, which helps women discover and ignite their innate style traits through personal color, body architecture, and style archetype analysis. She then uses your style biology to build a personalized wardrobe that is defined, versatile, and 100% you. In her 4 years in the styling industry, she's helped hundreds of bold women transform their appearance by celebrating the way they are made. I love that. Shopping consciously and taking risks in the way they show up in the world. I've been following Liz on social media for a little while, and I am really excited to have this interview. I really love how she approaches personal style from a body neutral standpoint. So Liz, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here.
Hi, Kim. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm thrilled. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Oh, me too. Me too. Can't wait to dig into it all. So before we get into the good stuff, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be doing the work that you do?
Sure. So my name's Liz. I live in Atlanta. I am a wife and a mom of two, and I found myself as a stay-at-home mom for 4 years, feeling myself stretching beyond what my routine was allowing for me at that time in my life. And sometimes I like to describe it as I felt like I was being crushed under 2 metric tons of unmet potential is kind of how I describe it. And, I was wondering what was next for me. I had really only worked in retail for years and wondered how those skills would transfer to my real job one day. And I got the opportunity to start training as a personal stylist, and I took it. And here I am today, living a completely different life that's exciting and challenging. And I get to work with women, which is just my favorite. That's the dream, right? Working with rebel, bold, intelligent, beautiful, funny women every day. I feel very lucky. It was also around this time when I started to explore a non-diet lifestyle. And I was so lucky to happen upon intuitive eating on Instagram, where we get all our information, right?
Of course.
And it just made sense to me. It just locked into my brain in a way that felt just completely true. And that was around the same time that I was discovering my own personal style, and the combination of releasing myself from diet culture and discovering my own style biology was just completely transformative. It changed my life. And so I run my business with a very intentional focus on body neutrality and radical self-love and acceptance. So I center everything I do around celebrating the way you are and highlighting all the things that are wonderful about the way you were made. And there are a lot of those.
Yeah. I love how you married 2 passions of yours, right? Your passion for style and then the things that you were learning about intuitive eating and body image and your own body acceptance journey. Tell me a little bit more about how those 2 came together. Like what started to change in your mind as you started to do your own body acceptance work?
Sure, absolutely. when I was deep in diet culture, dieting chronically, exercising in a non-joyful way, for sure, I was also deep in a mindset around my style that centered around a very fearful approach to dressing myself, a desire to always look smaller, to always look thinner, to disguise my flaws and, create this body ideal. And when I started untangling my diet culture mindset, I started to realize how those things are connected, the way I'm dressing myself and the way that I feed myself, and how neither of those things aligned with my true values, the things that were
Mm.
actually important to me deep down, which is, you know, generously pouring love into my friends and family, uplifting my friends and family, encouraging them, celebrating them, connecting with new people and making new people feel comfortable and seen, and dressing myself in fear and feeding myself out of fear was not helping me do those things. In fact, it was
Mhm.
preventing me from doing those things because I was
Yeah.
so anxious and so in my own head and living this very internal, turbulent lifestyle
Mhm.
that was actually making me not a very pleasant person to be around.
Mhm.
And so untangling those two things at the same time not only made sense, but helped me arrive at a place of body acceptance and to start living my most stylish life and to be more generous with my love and my affection with people in the shortest possible amount of time, I believe.
Yeah.
It definitely was very connected
Yeah.
in my experience.
I love that. So you talked about how style before was about trying to look smaller, trying to hide so-called flaws to like blend in, really, right?
Mhm,
Like hide your body.
mhm.
So what is style about for you now, if not for those things? Like, what's your mission statement around style?
Sure, I love that. So, this is a practice for myself, and it's also a process that I walk all of my clients through when we begin our work together is we need to identify, you heard me mention briefly, my values,
Mhm.
and we all have core values that whether consciously or unconsciously steer all the decisions that we make. And so I want my clients to have a very clear understanding of three core values. I call them style values, but they're really life values. So
Mm.
for me, my core values are curiosity, connection, and celebration. So I want my clothes to set me up to say yes to opportunities to connect with others, to connect with myself. It's definitely a process of connecting with myself. I like to stay curious about my clothes. I take all the pressure off of myself to do it right. And instead, I like to approach my clothes with curiosity. I will try anything once and then I will know if it's for me or not. And I think that helps me to incorporate some creativity into my wardrobe. And it just takes that fear aspect out of getting dressed because I'm just seeing what happens. So there's curiosity, and then celebration, I don't save my special clothes for a special day. I
Mm.
celebrate the mundane with my clothing. And by very consciously doing that, I get to feel fabulous every day because I'm giving myself permission to turn everyday moments into a celebration.
Mm.
And I get to use all of my clothes more often because I've just decided for myself that that's a value that I hold. And I want to be able to say yes to the opportunity to celebrate my loved ones and celebrate with friends and family. And so I make sure that I have the pieces I need in my closet to be able to say yes to that last minute invitation without running on the hamster wheel of panic shopping and freakouts, which I know all too well. And
Mhm.
happy to say that's not part of my life anymore.
Yes, we'll talk about that in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really love that. Thank you so much for sharing that perspective. That really helps clear up a lot of things in my mind because here's something I've observed recently is that like when we let go of the idea of dressing to try to hide our body or fit into some arbitrary beauty ideal, then what it seems we're left with is like, well, what's the point? Why would I bother to put any effort into my appearance, right? Like there's that it's that all or nothing thinking, like either I'm trying to match this ideal or like screw it. There's no
Yeah.
point. Right. But what I'm hearing you say is like clothing and your style is a great way to connect to your values and express who you are into the world. I really love that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It can feel very defeating when that impossible beauty standard is not going to be reached and you've come to that understanding, which I hope that we can all come to that understanding that that beauty ideal is a farce
Mhm,
and, an impossibility, and it doesn't actually exist at all. It's all made up.
mhm,
When you come to that conclusion, it can feel like, well, I should just give up.
yeah,
And I definitely challenge that belief that you are worth showing up in the ways that align with the way you feel about yourself. I often say that your clothes are a visual representation of your worthiness. Your worthiness to
mhm,
participate in the experiences that are meant for you
mhm,
and to be able to feel that motivation to get out the door and be a part of the world. And clothing can be a hindrance to that, or it can be a vehicle for you to leave the house and be a part of things. And that's what I want for everyone.
I love that. I'm often talking here on the show about your body being the vehicle you move around the world in, right? That your vehicle to experience life. So clothing is
Yeah.
another vehicle that we can use to experience life in all the ways that we want to. Okay, so let's talk about body changes because they happen. It's a part of life. And around here, we're really neutral about that. Bodies change, bodies get bigger, bodies get smaller, and none of that means anything about us.
Yeah.
However, it can be frustrating trying to dress ourselves when that happens. So, what can you give us some strategies? How do we navigate body changes and the realities of the closet that we have?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So our bodies are supposed to change. If they didn't change, there would be something very wrong with, our health. This is how we adapt to our environment. This is how we go into our advanced years, which is the goal. And body changes are a part of that package. So, but that does come with the inevitability of needing different clothing. And I think we've attached a lot of morality around body changes in and of itself. And then
Mhm,
we also have attached morality to spending money to clothe our bodies.
yeah.
And I don't think that either of those sets of, moral standards are healthy or right. Your clothes are your ticket out the door.
Mhm,
Can leave the house without clothes, but probably only the one time. And, your experience will be much more pleasant. But dressing just not to be naked is not enough.
Yeah.
That's not enough for your overall well being. It's not enough to let your gifts and talents spill out generously like we want them to. And so, what we need to do, each of us, is to kind of untangle our beliefs about money, our
Mhm,
beliefs about body change and the acceptability around that and the beauty and healthy nature of our bodies changing. And I can't emphasize this enough. This is something every single one of my clients asks about and inquires about, and it's something that I work on with everybody, is deciding for yourself that you have the skills and you have the resources needed to clothe yourself anytime, any way that you need.
mhm,
One of my favorite kind of analogies for this, we go on like a little mind journey, is if we can liken body change to the experience of moving to a new climate. So when you move to a new climate, let's say you've gotten a job in Miami, we're moving to Miami, and you're not going to need your boots and your parka anymore, but you're going to need some new clothes so that you can function in the world. There is no morality attached to that. There's no failure attached to moving to a new climate and the necessity of purchasing new clothing. And then let's say a year later, you're moving again to Winnipeg. Again, we're going to buy some new clothes. Maybe we got rid of all those things once. Now we need to buy them again. That is necessary, and no one can argue with the necessity of that. We need to adopt that objectivity about purchasing the clothing that we need in the time that we need it.
Yeah.
And trusting that you have the resources to do that and that it is okay to buy things again when your size change.
Yeah, like you say, there's money hangups in there, right? About, I know there's a lot with women feeling worthy of spending money on themselves, but there's also a lot of morality attached to body size, right? As you say, like if you're moving climates, you just buy the things you need because you're going to need them. There's no question about should I or am I worthy of that? Do I deserve it? And yet I find with body changes, we do attach so much morality to it. I know myself when I was deep in diet culture, I would reward myself for a weight loss by buying all the wonderful clothes, all the expensive things that I would never allow myself to have otherwise. Right.
Yeah.
And then if my body changed and got larger, I'd be so sad that those things didn't fit. And then I would go to the bargain rack to buy the bare minimum to suit my body. Right.
Yeah.
I think I was less worthy of nice things in my larger body. I would say that it was about money, but obviously it wasn't if I thought I could do it in my smaller body, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That was a prime example of body hierarchy and acknowledging that you are moving up the totem pole, for lack of a better analogy, of body hierarchy. We value certain bodies over other bodies. And depending on where you're landing on that body hierarchy scale, so to speak, you are rewarded or punished. And you are just inflicting what we perceive society will do to us, reward and punish. And we're, inflicting that on ourselves. It's a form of extortion. I did it too. And, it takes practice and it takes a lot of inner work to move away from that. And it's one experience at a time, one redirected message at a time. And it can take a long time, but it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. And a whole lot of self-compassion and kindness along the way, right? And constantly challenging that belief that I'm better or more worthy in a certain body. Like your worthiness doesn't change ever. That's just inherent. You just have that. So getting to the place where we believe that takes a bit of internal work, as you say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so let's also talk though about releasing clothes that no longer fit, because as bodies change and sometimes they change to a point, especially as we age and we, like you say, getting into our advanced years, we tend to put on more weight, and that is normal. That's how it's supposed to go. But the clothes that previously fit us probably won't ever again. So there comes that point where we have to say goodbye to some things, and that can be really emotional, really triggering. Do you have some strategies to help us feel more neutral about saying goodbye to those things that are no longer going to fit, no longer serve us?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I go through the closet editing process with many of my clients, and you're absolutely right. It's an emotional process. It's a heavy process. Our clothes have a way of holding memories very strongly for us, sometimes positive and sometimes negative. And the analogy that I like to make, I don't know if there are any Harry Potter fans listening. I don't know if you're a Harry Potter fan, Kim. Your face is lit up. Me too. Your clothes that do not fit are like one of Voldemort's Horcruxes. Yes. It's
Yeah.
holding on to a little piece of your soul. And every time you get near it and you look at it, it starts to pull at you,
Yeah.
right? And not in a healthy way.
Mhm.
And morning after morning, you are exposing yourself to Horcruxes.
Ew.
Like, in Harry Potter 7, when whoever is holding on to the Horcrux gets really like cranky and grumpy and a little bit vicious, that happens to us when we are constantly facing non-viable options, useless options in our wardrobe because of those messages of worthiness, because of those messages of body hierarchy. We are starting our day in a very unhealthy way when we are presenting ourselves with these non-viable, unusable options morning after morning. So I I like the Horcrux analogy. I kind of give people permission to, like stab their Horcrux. Another place to journal about or just kind of dig in a little bit is, again, your beliefs about scarcity and abundance. So scarcity mindset is instilled in many of us from a very young age. That I don't know if your mom ever said this to you, Kim, but you get what you get and you don't get upset. Did
I
you
may
ever
have
hear
said
that?
that to my kids at some point too.
Oh, me too. Me too, for sure. So, these are the clothes we've got, and this is all we get. And if we have let those clothes down, then we better do whatever it takes to get back into them because this is it.
Mhm.
But that is so beyond false
Yeah.
because there are thousands, millions of beautiful, functional, comfortable options out there that are just waiting to be yours. Clothes that are meant for you, clothes that are going to work hard for you. And the clothes that you're not using in your closet, it's really like, clipping dollar bills to a hanger and just, shutting the door. You're not using them, they're not benefiting anybody. And you can send those on to live a new life with someone else who
Yeah.
can use them. And that's not limited just to clothes that don't fit anymore. It's clothes that you don't like,
Mhm.
clothes that don't feel comfortable on your body for reasons other than fit. If it's too
Mhm.
itchy, if it wrinkles too much, let them go. Just let it all go and believe that you have the skills and resources to find that better item.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's part of what I teach also. It's how to
I
find
love
those
that.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how to find the things that do suit you.
Yeah.
I like that, and often what I found helpful when I was going through this process myself was visualizing the person that would receive that item when I either donated it or set it for consignment, whatever. I would, because especially those things that were really special to me that I really loved, like it was hard to let go of. I had to visualize somebody else loving it just as much and it bringing them so much joy. And then it was like, okay, that can go. That can go because somebody else will love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm, it can bring someone else joy. It can enrich somebody else's life. And it did that once for you. And that might have been that item's path with you to bring that joyful memory. And that's never going away, even
Right.
if you let the piece go, which is really hard for the sentimentals out there
Mhm.
to let the physical object go.
Yeah.
Another another concern that a lot of people have with getting rid of pieces is the environment, which is extremely valid.
Yeah. Mhm.
Clothing production is one of the biggest contributors to climate change, and I always let people know that this part of the process of making better choices includes discarding some items now that can be done responsibly. And just because we're letting go of something now doesn't mean we're going to keep letting things go in the future.
Yeah.
We're just going to start making some better choices, and that initial letting go process is part of the journey. It's part
Right.
of the learning process.
Right. And like you
So,
say, making more informed choices as you go forward, consuming less
yeah.
and choosing more sustainable options. Those are
Yeah,
all great.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about shopping.
Yay.
Shopping can be really fun, and sometimes it's not either. I
Sometimes
know
it's not.
myself, especially when, like, as my body has changed, like, the things that I used to gravitate towards that I knew would look nice on me, suddenly, like, it just didn't feel as good, and so the style of clothing that now suits my body is different, and it took a little bit of experimenting to figure that out, and sometimes I don't have the patience or the desire to experiment. So, do you have
Totally.
any tips to help make the shopping experience a little more enjoyable and easeful?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, have you ever been to a cheesecake factory
Yeah.
restaurant? You sit down and they hand you a book that's got, 30 pages of food items that you could order. I don't know about you, but that can feel a little overwhelming. And I could take an hour to decide what I'm going to eat.
Yeah.
But if I just tell myself, I'm going to look at these 2 pages and I'm going to pick something here, limiting myself gives me more freedom to make that choice.
Mm.
And that's what style biology does. It's freedom through limitations. By being able to weed out the noise and being able to disregard 75-90% of the options out there, you have so much more freedom and so much more authority in making choices for yourself. So once you know your color season, that's one tool that's going to help you. Just ignore
Mm.
pieces that are already off the table just based on color. And you can zoom right in on those pieces that are the right colors for you and assess only those items. So you
Gotcha.
don't have to give everything a chance. It's just going to
Mhm.
help you,
Yep, narrow it.
focus in
Mhm.
on the pieces that actually have potential for you. And then I always encourage people when you're browsing to have a little bit of an idea in your mind of what you're looking for, but
Mhm.
don't be too attached to that because we can then start placing conditions on our shopping experience. Like, I am not leaving the store without a pair of black pants today. Is a surefire way of bringing home a pair of black pants that you don't actually like
Yeah.
and that are then going to sit in your closet for years
Yeah.
and might not even get worn.
Yeah.
But if you enter the store with a little bit of curiosity, a little bit of openness, that you're just like, I'm just here to put some things on my body and just see what happens. I'm here to do a little experimentation. You might actually be pleasantly surprised
Yeah.
by what you find if you can approach it like playtime.
Mhm.
Easier
Mhm.
said than done. A lot of us feel a lot of anxiety when we walk into a store, or even a sense of doom. Yeah, you walk into a store. And so that's very real. I definitely acknowledge that. And any way that you can limit your options and
Yeah.
just, limit what you're going to look at and what you're going to consider is just going to really help you kind of lessen those feelings of overwhelm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Reduce the options, reduce the overwhelm. And I heard you say to, like, prepare your brain, right? So that you're not
Yeah.
going in anxious and feeling dreadful before you even start, right? Like,
Yeah.
looking at it as an opportunity to have fun and connect with your body and see what happens, right? Be
Yeah.
curious and yeah, can
Yeah.
help a lot.
Yeah. And I just encourage everyone to do a little bit of reconnaissance work in your closet. Like, find those pieces, go in your closet and pull out those pieces that do feel really good, that
Mm.
are comfortable. Write down what the fabric content is.
Mm.
Write down, are there darts? Is there seaming in the back? Is that what's making it like fit so nicely for you? And then you can go out and actively look for those same traits
Yeah.
in clothing. And you can also do the opposite way. If there are pieces in your closet that you really hate and actively avoid, what fabrics are those made from?
Mhm.
What happens when you're wearing that you really dislike? And then you can use those criteria very intentionally to avoid certain things in the store.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
helpful. Yeah, having a strategy before you walk in the door, right? To know kind of an idea what you're looking for and what types of clothing are gonna suit, what colors. I could see
Yeah.
that myself. I'm visualizing that going, "Oh, that would help so much when you walk into a huge store with 1,000 things." Just go, "No,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. Oh, you. I will try you."
Yes, exactly. And then if it works, great. And if it doesn't, you can just go ahead and move on. move on with my
Yeah. And
day.
that takes a level of neutrality too, right? When it doesn't work, to not make it mean it's your body's problem or it's your problem. It's just that item wasn't for you.
Yes, exactly. If you look around at the variety of bodies and people out there, there are clothing pieces made for every single one of them.
Mhm.
We just need to know where to look and where to find them, and that can take a little while and some research and some learning to understand.
Mhm.
But one of my little phrases that I like to say is, don't wear daffodil clothes if you're a rose. So
Ooh.
there are there are clothes out there for you
Yeah.
that are made just for you to behave correctly on your exact body. And I'm your teammate to help you go out and get them and bring them home.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing. It's all been so helpful. There's like such practical strategies. Thank you so much for sharing this with us.
You're so
Um,
welcome.
I know when we were chatting back and forth on Instagram, you said you had some questions yourself. You wanted to chat about some things that have come up for you on your own body acceptance journey, and especially around your relationship with movement. You want to dig into that now?
Yes, please. Yes,
Okay.
please.
Hey, what's
So
struggle?
so I've been on my intuitive eating journey for about 3 years now, and where I have been successful so far is in, letting go of the food police,
Yes.
respecting my body, allowing all foods, etc. And it's getting into that joyful movement part that's been a little bit of a slower process for me. I think because I have such a history of exercising solely for aesthetics,
Mhm.
that I find exercise to be very triggering, in that I feel myself going back to that place, which I've worked very hard to get out of. So I would love some help, some tough love, or some
Sure. Oh, there's no tough love
practical
around here.
tips to
Nothing
get out.
but kindness and compassion from me.
Oh, good. I like that.
Oh, yeah. I want to validate your feelings first and say you're 100% not alone. And having the awareness of even knowing like this type of movement is triggering for me because of the way that I engaged with it in the past is huge, right? So you already know where this is coming from, why it's there. The question is, what are you making it mean about you that you have this trigger, that you have this resistance to exercise?
Mm, that I guess I'm making it mean that I'm just an out of shape person now. That, exercise is, if I'm doing it right, then it's going to be hard,
Hmm.
and that I don't want to feel uncomfortable. And my history with exercise has taught me that exercise is uncomfortable and hard
Yeah.
and painful in some ways as well.
Yep.
And I don't want to feel that way. And
Yeah.
so my brain has just said, like, well, we're just not going to do that anymore.
There's no point, right? Because that's what we do. We're all or nothing, right? It's either
Yeah.
I have to look like this or I'm just not going to do it. And you're not wrong for internalizing those things because those are the messages that we hear from fitness culture over and over again, right? If you're going to get results, you have to push yourself. It has to be hard. You have to give 110% consistently all the time, or you're not doing it right. You're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
That's coming from Fitspo, who wants you to believe that the only point of exercising is to change or shrink your body.
Yep.
So, if we could put that aside, I call that the gym police. So I kind of, yeah, I created 10 principles of joyful movement that mirror the 10 principles of intuitive eating. And the gym police are very similar to the food police. They tell us like all these arbitrary rules about how exercise is supposed to look to be right. And it's all a bunch of crap. So if you could put that aside, and instead of thinking about exercise as a way to change your body and whip yourself into shape, what would be different if you could think about movement as a way to care for your overall well being and to feel the very best you possibly could in body, mind, and spirit? What
Yeah.
might that open up for you?
I'm not sure I've ever experienced that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I've had that feeling that exercise was benefiting my overall wellness. It's always felt like reparations for what I ate
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
an attempt to change what I look like.
Hmm.
And I'm sure that in the midst of those days when I was exercising for aesthetics, I probably did feel good physically, but I think I felt so bad emotionally that I couldn't appreciate it.
100%.
So I don't even know what that feels like
Yeah. Yeah.
to feel good physically and emotionally at the same time.
So if you just forget about exercise altogether, like
Yeah.
exercise is one way that we can move our body. It's a fine way, but there's all kinds of other ways to move our body and they're all good, right? Like even if you sit here right now and just open up your shoulders and take a little stretch, like that benefits you, right? You feel better by doing that. If you
Yeah.
got up and like stretched your hips a little, that would feel good. Any little bit of movement is good for you and it benefits you. So if you can think about what brings me pleasure, where do I feel the most connected to myself? What's fun for me? Or what did I like to do when I was a kid? If there's nothing now, what did I used to like to do? And I see your face lighting up. So there's something coming to you.
Yeah. I danced when I was a
Yeah.
kid. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was fun. Right.
It was.
And now you think that's not good enough because it's not
Mm.
real exercise.
Yeah. Or like I'm not good at it
Ah,
anymore.
right. And
So
I've heard that come up a lot too. Well, I look silly when I dance. If you could
yeah.
just let that go, and if you were alone in your kitchen and you put on some loud music and you just like shook it out for 5 minutes, would that be
Yeah.
fun? Would that feel good? Would that be a fun way to benefit your mental, emotional state?
Probably would. Yeah, probably would. I can totally do that. And I do that with my kids, like goofing around. And I guess I just have this message in my head that like if it's not official,
Yeah, that doesn't count.
then it doesn't it's not doing anything. But
Yeah.
I don't know where that came from
Oh, it
or
came
why I
from
let that
Fitspo.
control me so hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's all we hear, right? Like we're surrounded by like it has to be 30 minutes. You have to sweat, you have to get your heart rate to this. Like if we could just
Yeah.
that'll go. It's just the same as all the diet rules. Like you have to get this many
Mhm.
vegetables, you have to have this many grams of protein, you should eat at these times, and your portion should be this size. If you could just look at that as one way to think about it, but it's not the only way to think about it, but you get to decide. And another piece of this that I really like to talk about is you know how you learned in intuitive eating to trust your hunger and your fullness, to like come into yourself and feel your own body's signals for what it wants?
Mhm.
That exists for movement too.
Mm.
It takes a little bit of
Interesting.
practice, but you can just do like a quiet embodiment practice where you close your eyes and like land in your body and sense how your body's feeling. And then you ask yourself, what do I feel right now?
Mhm.
What do I need?
Mm.
And like the more you practice that, the more you'll be able to hear your body's movement cravings, which is what I call them. Like we have these movement cravings. And it might say something as simple as like, I just want to stand up for a second. Like it's just getting uncomfortable to sit here. Or maybe I need more rest today. Maybe I need to stretch. Maybe I need to swing the kettlebell around and like burn off some angry energy or sprint down the street. Like it's different every day, but your body knows the type of movement it needs.
Mm. Do you have any suggestions for like if I'm feeling some type of way,
Mhm.
how do I know what my body needs? Because I'm not sure that I mean, some things I do instinctively, like I know when I need to like get up and stretch, or
Mhm.
sometimes I know that I just need some sunshine on my face. And so I'll go outside and like do just like walk around my driveway or something just to get
Mhm.
some like vitamin D. But other than that, I'm not sure I know when my body needs to do yoga or if I need to do like a vigorous walk or if I need to go for a swim. Like, do you suggest journaling and like keeping track
You
of?
can. Yeah, you can certainly journal and you can experiment with it. Be like, okay, my body feels really tired and tight today. So I think I need something low impact, something stretchy. I'm going to try putting on a yoga video and see if that improves how I feel. Right. Or I feel like I need to burn off some energy. So I'm going to put on a YouTube video with some like a high intensity cardio thing and see how that goes. That is also where someone like me comes in. That's a big part of the coaching work that I do is I'll work with my clients. They'll do the embodiment practice and say, this is how I feel. And then they're like, but I don't know what to do. I'm like, okay, let's try this. Let's try that. And it's a collaborative process, but it just really, it takes practice. It takes being willing to get it wrong too, right? Like try something, see how it goes, but really like let go of the idea that it has to look a certain way to be right and allow your body to tell you what's right.
Ooh. I mean, literally everything you're saying, that's the same stuff that I say to my clients about their clothes. Like, just try it on and see what happens. But I can't seem to, bridge that gap over to exercise for myself. So this is actually incredibly helpful because you're using my same words on me.
Well, I know it's funny when you were talking, I was like, oh, okay, I get it. This is it's the same thing. But we're all specialists in our own thing, right?
Yep, exactly. So what would you suggest for a exercise shy person, like to dip my toe in to getting regular movement? Because obviously, I care about my health. I worry about my health. I want to take care of my body, but I also know where I've been before, and I also really don't want to go back there. So what would you suggest for someone like me who is just feeling a little bit trepidatious? Is that a word?
I think it is.
I'm going to say it is.
I'm going to go with that.
I'm feeling very trepidatious.
Yeah.
About exercising.
Yeah. So I'd say for now, take exercise off the table.
Okay.
Just like full stop. Release the expectation that you have to do it. I did this myself, and so have so many of my clients, right? Like, because there's just so much stuff attached to it, right? It's just very triggering. So leave it, shelf it.
Okay.
And practice embodiment. One of my clients, she called it floor time. I forget, something like that. But she would set 10 minutes aside every day and just sit down on her floor and roll around and stretch and be in her body and just see how things felt. And then constantly communicating with her body, what do you want to do next? What do you want to try next? Do you want to go for a walk? Do you want to do a stretch? And just little by little, baby steps, adding in a bit more movement, but making it really, really intuitive. And honestly, it's like responding every time you feel hungry and feeding yourself. Every time you connect to these movement cravings, the more that you do it, the more your body starts to communicate with you. And eventually, maybe your body will start to ask for formal exercise again. If it does, that's great. If it doesn't, that's also fine because we don't need to exercise to be healthy. Humans, it's all made up. We don't need exercise. Gyms are a new phenomenon that we never had 70 years ago. So, we need movement. It doesn't have to take place in a gym or be a formal workout.
Okay. So I need to work on my vocabulary around this because I definitely have defined in my head what exercise is and is not. And what you're describing is very different from what my brain is telling me exercise looks like.
Yeah.
And your way sounds delightful. And
well,
and my way has gotten me nowhere.
Well, this is it, right? It's looking at the way I'm thinking about exercising now, the beliefs I hold, are they getting me what I want? Nope. Right? No. But if I challenge those beliefs and I start to think about it in a way that's a lot more kind and compassionate and puts me in control, then it's a whole lot more sustainable and motivation changes all of a sudden because you're I can do that. That's not so bad. And I can build on that. Right?
I definitely do have a message in my head that that I can't do something, that I'm not the type of person that does such and such.
That's a story.
Goes on a long hike or something. perfectly capable of going on a long hike, but I have it in my head that it's going to be too hard. It's going to be painful. It's going to take all my energy, and then I'll just be useless for the rest of the day if I do something like that, which I'm sure is not true.
Right.
That if I like expend some energy, that I'm not just going to be like a lump for the rest of the day. It's actually going to do the opposite,
Right.
right?
And do you
That's what I
trust
hear.
yourself to know when too much is too much, right? Like rather than it's going to take everything you have, what if you're in communication with your body the whole time and know when enough's enough? Trust that you have the skills and the resources to know when I just
You
used
got
your
me. Yes, you did. I love it.
right?
I love it. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Great. If you could give me a little homework, what would you tell me to do?
Okay, I guess the first place to start would be like get all those gym police beliefs out on paper. Like
Ooh.
do a little journaling. Like, what is it that I've been believing about exercise? Is it true? First of all, like, is it absolutely 100% true, these things that I'm believing? And where am I getting by believing them?
Mm,
And
mm,
how do I want to think about exercise? Like, what would be a helpful way to think about this to feel the feeling of motivation or inspiration to do something? It all starts with our thoughts. Like I'm big on that. So start there and see where
that's
you
good.
go. Yeah.
That's good. I will do that.
Okay.
And
This
I'll
was fun.
DM you on Instagram and tell you how it went.
I'd love to hear back from you. We could do a follow-up conversation.
Oh, I would love that. I'm all about accountability. If I have to show my work, you better believe I'm gonna be there and I'm gonna do it. So yeah, that would be great. I would love that. I would love that.
Super. Well, this was a great conversation on both sides. I learned so much from you. Hopefully you got value out of the conversation too. And our listeners listening, like you got a double header here, guys. There's like so much to take out of this episode. So
Oh,
as we
thank
wrap
you.
up, Liz, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom on the show today. There's so many great tidbits in there, but I know our followers are going to want to keep in touch. So can you tell them where they can find you?
Sure. You can find me on Instagram at rise.styling, and you can visit my website at risestyling.com. I believe there will be a link in the show notes to grab my latest article. It's called 5 Clothing Lies We Tell Ourselves. And it also includes the 5 truths that you need to know instead. So feel free to grab that. And I would love to connect on Instagram and have conversations with everybody.
Great. Yeah.
Don't be
Make sure you
shy.
go grab that. I picked up Liz's freebie and there's good stuff in there. So make sure you go and grab that. All right, Liz, thanks so much for this. This has been wonderful.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And I look forward to talking again.
Thanks for tuning into the Power in Motion podcast today. If you love what you're learning here, then I invite you to take the next step of embodying these concepts into your own life so that you can live your healthiest, happiest life and never again feel held back by your body. Coaching is the fastest, most efficient pathway to taking what you know in your head to actually applying it and seeing results. Whether you're looking to make changes around movement, food, body image, or all three, I'm here to help you nurture a kind, respectful, and trusting relationship with your body so you can feel your very best. Click the link in the show notes to book a free consultation, and together we'll uncover what's getting in the way of you having the results you want. You'll leave this call knowing exactly what you need to work on, and together we'll explore whether one of my coaching offers is a good fit for you. I can't wait to meet you.